WNBA. Let's go. Fast break, no fear, we play to win. Strength and power, let the game begin.
Welcome, everyone. This is the WNBA discussions from the East Coast to the West Coast with Grandma Mo and
Lisa D from ZT.
Okay, Lise. So let's start off with your game of the week. So who was your game of the week?
My game of the week, oh my God, so many close games, nail biters. But I picked the Liberty versus the Valkyries.
I thought about that. I thought about it. I picked something else, but go ahead.
But yeah, JJ being out. Anescu was back after being out with some neck pain. And I was anticipating, like, I wanted to see this matchup because this is like what the playoffs would look like. They're playing like a top contender.
Yeah.
And oh my God, over 18,000 people. I always talk crowd because crowd money, it's just amazing to me in attendance. But it went there. Here we go again. It went down to the freaking wire. It was a nail biter. It could have went either way.
Yes.
And New York won. It only within the last couple of minutes. It was a close game the whole game. The fans were in it. And as you know, because I saw your post, the Valkyries, new franchise, but their value is at 500 million. That's fantastic for your area.
Yeah.
Well,
some people are like, oh, that can't be. But you have to realize that Lacob and his ownership, they own the building. They own the parking lot, so they get all the money from the parking. They own the concessions. They own the merchandise. Other teams lease those things.
Right.
And he owns all of it. And they paid $50 million, so he's already 10 times his money.
Unbelievable.
And it'll go up. I mean, it'll go up because the Valkyries are just getting started. And, anybody that knows this area, it's loaded with money. I mean, you have tech. This is the tech center of the world.
Yeah, but it's just fantastic to see when in Connecticut, we can't fill a 10,000 seat arena. Yeah. Of course, Connecticut, even in their good days, it was hard for, but, to see that amount of people, I think that's why I'm so amazed by it. Because, being a season ticket holder for so many years and seeing that, those stadiums, smaller stadiums weren't being filled. I can only imagine what it must be like.
It's a really easy place to get to. Like the Bay Area has 7 million people.
Yeah, I love the Bay Area.
You have San Francisco, so it's right on the bay. It's like right down the street from Giants AT&T Park, and then you can get there by ferry. So if you're up in the North Bay where I am, you can just hop on the ferry and it takes you right there, and it's a couple block walk. And then you have BART that brings you over from the East Bay, and then the South Bay you can just drive up. So you have access to 7 million people. And it's easy to get to, from what I can tell, Connecticut's, it's pretty out in the boonies there.
It is. Yeah.
So that makes a difference if you're right in the middle of a city with 7 million people around. I don't even know what the population is. It's something like that, though, if you take into account the whole Bay Area. So, and it's a beautiful location. I mean, just you're right in, and, it's just a beautiful area. I love it here. So
yeah, I would too.
Yeah, it is. I don't regret. I left college and I came out here with a friend of mine and not knowing anything. And as soon as I landed, I was like, oh my God, this is great. There's no bugs.
Yeah, there's no going back. Or
well, you have dry air. You have dry air, and there's. It's just beautiful, and the temperature's very nice. It doesn't, Northern California, I mean, parts of it do. I mean, you go to Sacramento and you're going to get 110. But, it's just a beautiful area, and there's plenty of opportunity here. But, not people think they're all millionaires. No, they're not. I mean, there's plenty of just working people here that.
Yeah, that's, hodgepodge of anything in a major city. like
Right.
that, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So my game of the week, I almost picked if the Valkyries had won, it would have been my game of the week.
I said,
But
if we match up for the third week in a row, no,
yeah,
but go ahead.
no, I picked them. I picked the Mystics and the Lynx. The Mystics and the Lynx. The Mystics beat the Lynx. That was a nail biter too.
Sure
But
was.
the Mystics, they kept coming close. They had a couple of games where, I mean, that one, who were they playing? Atlanta, I think. And Brittany Sykes had to hit 3 foul shots to make it to overtime, and she
Yeah.
missed one of them. So that was the game before. So they were getting close, you know. And the Mystics have a barrage of post players, you know.
Oh,
They
I
have
love the
all those
Mystics.
post players that are very athletic and active, and they're starting to put it together. So
Yeah.
that was my game of the week.
Yeah. That was another good.
Very
That
good game.
actually hit
Very
my,
good game.
and of course, you can't say one player makes a team,
Right.
as we learned throughout. And even though Collier has been out with back issues, I mean, again, it could have gone either way. And I think a couple of players faulted towards the end, and it didn't. That's the way the ball bounces, so to speak.
Yeah, well, the
So,
Mystics were missing their leading scorer in Sykes too.
right,
So
Sykes
it
was
was
out slim.
both teams were missing their leading scorers in
Correct.
that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so you can't, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like saying one person's it. And what about the other people that are on the team? I mean, they're just as good.
Mhm.
That's when they usually shine. The next person shines. You
Right.
know, even with the crappy record that Connecticut has, right? Mabry was out for a couple of games, and Rivers is pretty outstanding. Even
She's
though
a,
they still have lost,
yeah.
somebody else starts to shine. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so stuff's gonna
I was
happen.
watching their game yesterday, and Connecticut actually got within 3 in the third quarter.
They did.
And then Vegas pulled away, but they fought back enough to get within 3. They just haven't figured out how to keep that going.
No,
Like they
no,
get it back and then they lose it again.
yeah.
And maybe they'll figure it out as time goes on during the
And,
season. And
because that
they have a
gets
lot of young players on that team. I mean, the
they
Mystics
do.
have the youngest team, but Connecticut is very young too.
You got
Other
Tina Charles. I mean, she's
and a bunch of rookies or
yeah,
low-time players.
and I
Yeah.
mean, she gives her all every single game, and I
Right.
don't think any of them are not giving their all. It just
Right.
hasn't connected yet. That's
Yeah.
all. You
Yeah.
know.
Okay, so who was your player of the week?
My player of the week, got to go with Asia. Just because here we go. Aces they were kind of not doing so good, and then she goes out with the concussion protocol. They've had now 2 straight strong wins, and just because they played Connecticut, and they destroyed them, towards the end.
Yeah.
She had 22 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, of course, the block shots, but she is the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 5,000 career points in 238 games. I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, she had 1,000 last year.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, I
A
don't
lot
know
of
if it's
points.
the added, is it the added, well, this, added games really has just really came into play. But I mean, that's a lot of points.
Yeah, it
People
is.
just go,
Well,
oh,
records are going to get broken. I mean, there's
oh,
4 more games,
absolutely.
so records
Yeah,
is the more that you add games, the more records that are going to start falling. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Who did you pick this week?
I have her over here. Let's see if I can get this to work. Um,
You're so
there we go.
technical. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Shakira Austin.
She's awesome.
She was key in the Mystics games. She had some great just blocks and just for like the 2 games that the Mystics played this week, she was very instrumental in and she's such a great athlete. I mean, she is all of 6'5", and
Yeah.
she runs like a guard.
Yeah.
And
She can do, between block shots. She's just
yep,
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
she is. She is, and she's been hurt for the last 2 years. And when like she caught my eye, I never saw her play in college. Her first year with the Mystics, you could see the talent there, and then the
Yeah.
last 2 years, she's just been riddled with injury. So this is the first year she's been healthy again since then. So Shakira.
Yeah, she's taken that all in. She was actually, during my surprise of the week, which was Minnesota's loss to Washington. I was putting in that Austin was absolutely incredible to watch.
Yeah,
I
she
actually
was.
rewatched it this morning, and I was
Hmm.
like, wow, she was involved in almost every play
Yeah,
on the highlight reel.
yeah,
She's an amazing player.
yeah, she is.
Who was your
She
surprise of the week?
My surprise of the week was Dallas beating Atlanta. Atlanta, boy, they've kind of shown if they don't hit 3-point shots, they only scored 55 points
Yeah,
in
no,
a
I know,
game.
I know.
Like that was really low. Like
They
really
they
low.
they look tired.
Yeah, they did look tired, but they
You know
weren't
what I
hitting
mean?
any of their threes. They shot
No,
really poorly. And because I saw the score first and I'm like, oh, what happened to Atlanta? But you know what? They're making them. They have the two of the tallest players in the WNBA, and they're not using them.
yeah,
They're not using Bree Jones and Brianna and Brittany Griner.
yeah,
Like that was kind of my review after I saw that game. I'm like, oh, all you had to do was feed Brittany Griner. Dallas didn't have anybody to cover
no, I
her.
know. There's nobody tall. Well, now they got that.
Well,
What
actually, LaRue, that was her all-time
Lou?
best.
Yeah,
I mean, she had a career high in that
she
game.
did.
She was in there, but like Brittany Griner, I don't even think played 15 minutes. Like,
Now
why didn't you
I
just
know.
feed Brittany Griner and get LaRue in foul trouble? She's out of the game, and then you just cruise.
Yeah,
And they hardly ever threw her the ball. Brittany Griner hardly played. It was like, what are you doing? They
yeah.
relied on the 3-point shot, and they weren't making them. So that was my surprise.
Unless, like I said, unless she's just tired or whatever. I don't know. I don't know why they're not playing them.
Well, you kind of see it with each team. Like each team has had a game so far where it was like, oh boy, they look tired.
Oh, for
And
sure. And that was one of them where I was
yeah,
like, holy smokes.
yeah,
That I mean, they just look like either that or they just weren't into it.
right.
Like it's like, okay, I need a day off. Well, they had whatever I said Monday, I think Monday or whatever, it's ridiculous to have 5 games on the same night. I mean, for people that like a bunch of teams, like I
Yeah,
do, you do, it's impossible.
yeah,
You got to click back and forth. So
yeah.
they got to split it up more or something. I don't know.
Well,
Something.
then it's harder then you're going to give teams back-to-back games if you do
Yeah,
that. And I mean, it's a catch-22. It's like, okay, if everybody just plays Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, say,
mhm.
you know, but they don't do that all the time because you have Friday nights on Ion. So if you go Tuesday, Friday, Sunday, or, I don't know how you'd split, but if you start mixing that up and people are playing Thursday and people are playing Saturday and that happens, but you're going to get back-to-back games if that
Yeah.
happens.
I don't know.
So,
They gotta figure a lot of things out. They only have one expansion team so far. It's like, guys, you got to figure this stuff out. They're actually thinking about going, like we had talked about, going into someone within like the facility or a booth, so to speak, that makes immediate plays on any kind of review. I'm like,
oh
amen.
yeah. Yeah,
That
that would
goes
be a
into
very good
place.
addition. And
You know
I'm
what I
sure
mean?
that'll be part of the bargaining agreement that's coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's focused on the player salaries and stuff, and that's a high priority. But
Yeah, I was
um,
watching, somebody was talking about it, one of the players, I forget who it was, and it wasn't NECA, because I know she's
she's
highly
the
involved.
president of the players union.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but so one
yeah,
of the players was talking about how things have changed and salaries haven't, and it's like anybody else, if they want another piece of the pie, and I don't blame them, you know.
yeah. Well, they just were going by the previous player bargaining agreement,
Right.
so that's why this next year is going to be huge. And they're gonna, because it lasts for a few years, so you have to kind of play through that.
Yeah.
And that one was better than the one before, and this one will probably be 10 times better than the one that's in place now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You and I are gonna have to dust off our croak heads. Start the geriatric league. I mean team
Yeah.
on the on the
Yep.
franchise.
So what was your play of the week?
My play of the week, which I loved, was I picked Beckers against Atlanta. The move that she did around the back switch for a beautiful mid-range shot. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that was so good.
She has a very mature game.
She
You know,
does. And
she's
she's
a
humble. I like
like
that.
she's just really smooth. She plays at her own pace, and it's almost robotic in a way
Yes.
because it's smooth. I mean, it's not jerky robotic, but it's just boom, step one, step two, step three, boom, basket. And it's really nice to watch. You can see how she doesn't get sped up by things. I mean, she
I
makes
was just going
mistakes
to
once
say
in a
that.
while, but she
Yeah,
just
I
is
agree.
it's really nice to watch her. She's like a wily old vet, and she's just a rookie. So
I was going to say, she's like an old soul out there. Like I have,
yeah,
you
yes,
know, and
yes,
I guess
yeah,
that's how you learn, when you come up with a great coaching staff, and everything's on repeat,
mm-hmm.
that eventually it just kind of kicks into play. But she does not get sped up, and I love that.
No, yeah, she does.
She
That's very
plays her
true.
game.
Very true.
Yeah.
So
How
mine
about you?
was mine was in the Indiana Fever Valkyries game. There was a play where Letitia Amihir like Indiana had the ball, then Amihir she got knocked down or something. So Clark is bringing the ball up, and she goes to pass the ball across the court, and Amihir's coming back, but she doesn't see her. And she comes flying in and intercepts the pass, and then she's falling out of bounds, like her momentum's taking her out of bounds. So she turns and throws the ball in to Kate Martin, and then Kate Martin sends it up, and then they pass it back to Martin in a three. It was a huge moment in that game that gave the Valkyries the momentum, because the Fever were winning at that, and the Valkyries were starting to come back.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then from there on out, they just took over and ended up pulling out that game. So that was my play.
I didn't think in that particular game. I don't know. Clark seemed, she just seemed off. She has
Well, she's
seemed
out
off.
again. I just saw this morning she's
Oh,
out.
did she?
The groin is still bothering her.
Yeah, because
So that
I
may
mean,
be
I know
throwing off her shot.
she fell at like the end, but I mean, something just seemed completely, not right. So it's not surprising,
Yeah. Yeah.
that news came about. And the other thing was that I did want to mention was that the Fever did waive Bonner,
Yeah.
Ari
McDonald.
McDonald will be back for you
Yeah.
guys.
They
Yeah,
made, by waiving Bonner, they made room for Ari.
yeah,
So, and especially with Clark out, with the groin again, they're going to need her.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think who do you think's going to pick up Bonner?
I don't know if anybody has any room.
I know.
It says
Kind of
she wants to go
interesting.
to Phoenix, which I understand, but Phoenix, who are you gonna cut to bring Bonner in?
I know. I don't know.
I,
I was like, wow. The negativity on social media and everything's all around. It
yeah,
doesn't matter who the heck you are. She was getting a bunch of, and I chimed in a little bit. I'm like, listen, if there's nothing worse than if something doesn't fit. They were calling her a quitter, and she's like, I'm not a quitter. You know what I mean? It just, it wasn't a good fit. So, it's best for them and it's best for her.
Yeah.
Plus
let it go. Everybody move on. Yeah.
Yeah. She has a family. So, good luck to her. But yeah, what a week it was. Indeed.
Lots of games, lots of really good games. One day with 4 upsets.
Yeah. I know. It was great.
It's terrific.
I know. That's good play. Yeah. I like it.
Me too.
And if you want, we could do this again next week.
Yeah, sure.